Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. I was just a little distracted. I was talking to Ken Thompson, who showed up early today, and we're having a quick conversation about the gentleman we have in studio with us right now. This is going to be interesting. So the guy we have with us in studio right now, he's a limo driver in Las Vegas, and he has a little, I'm not even going to call it running. It was a nice conversation. I'll let him talk about this with the owner of the Oakland Raiders. Guy we have with us in studio right now, his name's Dan Holmgren, and his story is interesting to say the least. Dan, I appreciate you coming in. How are you?
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
Hey, can we get his mic on, Kenny? Middle mic. There we go. All right, we're good. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. Is his mic working? Go ahead. You're good now. Sorry.
I'm good now?
There we go. Yeah, sorry about that.
Take three, right?
So take three. We got some technical issues here. Well, I appreciate you coming in, Dan.
Yes.
All right. So, first of all, how long have you been a limo driver in Las Vegas?
Since 2006.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you've been doing this for a good solid 13 years.
Yep.
So you get a ride, which and you're told you don't know who it's going to be, right? So you picked up the owner of the Raiders?
No.
What exactly happened?
I was staging at Caesar's Palace.
Okay, so you're just waiting for just to drive.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's called you stage, so you're waiting for walk-up business, or if they send you a reservation, you go somewhere in the area and pick up the customer. So I was staging. It was a slow day, and it's slow always now because of Uber and Lyft. We lost a lot of business in the limo and taxi business because of that. So I started staging 6:45 in the morning. About 4 hours later, 10:45, 10:50, I see off in the distance, Mr. Davis's unique haircut.
Mark Davis, the owner of the Oakland Raiders, and you're obviously a big Oakland Raiders fan.
Yes, I'm born and raised in the Bay Area.
Okay, so this is a big moment for you.
Yes.
You see the owner of the Oakland Raiders. Okay, so take me through it. What happens?
Yeah, so in the distance, I see a little towards Roman Plaza there, where the Absence Tower is. In the distance, I see Mr. Davis and Mr. Badan, the president of the Raiders. And
so he was there with Badan?
Yes, he was there. Okay. He was there with a group of about probably 8 different people.
Okay.
And I think they were waiting for a Sprinter van to pull up to...
Okay, so you weren't the driver.
No,
okay. Yes.
I didn't have anything to do with
So you spot him there as you're there by your limo.
Yes, sir.
So what happens from there on out?
So then I tell the starter, then the starter's the person that loads the cars from the door or the doorman. I said, I think that's Mark Davis and Mark Badan of the Raiders. I said, I'm going to go say hi. And at no time did he say, no, you need to stay in your car. That's against protocol, blah, blah, blah. So I walk over there. Mr. Davis is sure enough, it's him. I wait a minute because he's talking with somebody. He turns around. I said, Mr. Davis, I just want to let you know I'm a lifetime Raider fan. And he says, so am I. And he starts laughing and he shakes my hand. So we talk for close to 5 minutes. And as I'm talking to him about being a Raider fan, growing up in the Bay Area, I had PSLs when the Raiders came back in '95 to Oakland, and then me and 3 friends bought them.
So obviously you're a huge fan.
Oh, huge fan. Okay. A's, Warriors,
and you
Raiders.
You made that evident to him. So what was the conversation like? It was a nice conversation?
Oh, it was great.
Okay.
He was so cordial, so accommodating. We talked about his dad passing away in 2011 when me and a buddy of mine went to Houston to see the Raider game. We had it all planned out.
And he can see that you're genuine. You're telling me he was very nice to you.
Yeah.
The conversation lasted about 5 minutes. Did you say anything to the president of the organization as well?
No, I just thanked him when he handed over the lapel pin.
So who handed you the pin?
Mr. Badan.
So Badan hands you the pin. You shake their hands again, I would imagine, and everything was cordial.
Yes.
Okay, so you get back to your vehicle. You must be on a nice little high there.
Yeah, I was stoked.
That must have been really cool. So what happens after that?
Well, then, not 5 minutes later, the phone rings, and it's the dispatch from the company I work for telling me to bring the vehicle in. And I said, okay. And I bring it in, and the dispatcher on duty, I said, am I just pulled off the road for today, suspended, terminated? He couldn't give me an answer, so he says, they'll let you know. Well, the next day, they don't call. So I call in, talk to dispatch. They didn't know. They said, we'll have somebody call you. About a few minutes later, the general manager, I think that's his title, he called me and said, Mr. Abraham, who's the owner, says, cut you loose. And so the rest is history.
So they just fired you on the spot. They didn't even invite you in to have a conversation with you. And you've been with them since 2006?
No.
Okay.
I'd only started with them the beginning of the year. I was with another company for 10 years.
Have you ever been written up from this company, or have you ever had any major issues with any other company as a limo driver?
No, I haven't. I was never written up by this company. And like I said, I just started at the beginning of the year. And so they have a 90-day probationary period so they can get rid of you for anything. And also, since it's a right-to-work state, you can... If they don't like the way you parted your hair that day or the color of your eyes, they can get rid of you.
So I'm just okay. So if you're just joining us, we're speaking with Dan Holmgren, who met the owner of the Raiders, Mr. Davis, and was literally fired. What, 15 minutes later? 10 minutes?
Less than that. It took probably 5 minutes for them to call and 5 minutes for me to get back to the yard where we parked the cars and we're dispatched rides, and that's over on Valley View and Tropicana. So I went right from Cedars to...
Here's the question for you. Who do you think tattletaled on you? Who told them that you had a conversation with Davis? Because obviously somebody had to, right? Were there other limo drivers that were there?
Oh, yeah. There was 3 other cars behind me. I was first up.
So do you think that it is a possibility? Well, let me just ask you this. Who do you think told on you?
I don't have the slightest idea. It could have been another driver. It could have been a doorman over there. It could have been a Caesars representative, maybe that they didn't want me going up to Mr. Davis.
But you never found that out?
No, I never knew. The lady in the office who gave me my final paycheck, her name's Olga, she said, well, when you're with customers, you're supposed to say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
No, that's nonsense.
And never speak unless you're spoken to.
First of all, that's completely ridiculous, because I've heard a lot of limo drivers that get into nice pleasantries.
Yes.
It's one thing to be inappropriate. Let me give you an example, Dan. If you had like 8 footballs on you, and you had him sign all those footballs, or you had him take 20 selfies, or you kept him for longer than he wanted to be kept, or you took your cell phone and you took video and did like an interview with him or whatever. Yes, I agree. That would have been inappropriate. Fireable offense? Well, we could argue that.
Yes.
But it sounds to me that, first of all, you're genuine. You're a big Raiders fan. I'm sure that Mr. Davis appreciated that. It sounds to me like you had a very nice, normal, pleasant conversation. I don't see anything wrong with that, and I don't understand why your company would do that. Do you think they had any other let's just be straight, any other reason why they would have let you go?
No, but just let me make this clear first. Mr. Davis and Mr. Badan weren't customers of my company that I was terminated from, or Caesars transportation customers, and I didn't solicit a ride, which is like one of the cardinal sins, to walk up to somebody at a hotel and say, hey, do you need a car?
Right,
that's not the protocol.
Right.
So I didn't do anything like that. I just went up as a fan and said, hello, Mr. Davis, I've been a lifelong Raider fan. So it wasn't like how this lady presented it. You need to be yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am in the car. They weren't in my car. They weren't customers of the company. They weren't customers of Caesars. It was just I went up to say hi.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think you did anything wrong. So when they terminate you, did they put anything in writing? Do they have to put anything in writing?
They don't have to, because Nevada is a right-to-work state. You can, if somebody messes with your wages in Nevada, then you can go to the labor board. But if they fire you and you say, hey, I got fired for this, they'll say, well, you can get fired for anything.
Davis seems to me to be a pretty good dude, and it seems like there's a lot of people in the Raiders organization that are good people. Have you thought of writing to them or getting in contact with them and just, speaking your case and say, hey, look, met you, Mr. Davis. I'm sure you remember. I'm sure he would remember. We had a nice 5-minute conversation. I got a nice little Raiders pin. I just want you to know that they fired me for this conversation. I don't know if there's a way that anyone from your organization can call them, or is there anything you can do for me, because this is a horrible situation. This is the way I make a living. Have you thought of doing something like that?
Well, the next day after it was in the Review Journal, or that morning it was in the Review Journal on Friday, Mr. Badan called me, the president of the Raiders.
He did?
Yes, he did. Like 11 o'clock in the morning, and I saw this number I didn't recognize with, a Bay Area prefix come up. I said, hello. And he said, is this Dan Holmgren? I said, yes, sir. This is Mr. Badan from the Raiders. I just wanted to tell you, me and Mr. Davis are upset what happened to you. And I said, I'm not too upset. And he says, why, you have another job? And I said, nah, like my mom used to say, when one door closes, another opens up. So he says, I think I got a door that's going to open up for you. And so he had his transportation guy who's been with him for a long time and drove Mr. Al Davis around for years. His name's Dave. He says they're going to have he said, is it okay to have Dave give you a call? He did 10 minutes later. And he says, when we get the transportation company that's going to work with the Raiders up and going, we'll have you come on board. And until then, I got a guy named Lou Castro who runs Earth Limo in Las Vegas that you can go to work for in the interim.
Wow, that is fantastic.
Yes,
So that's a great ending to this story. That is so cool. I didn't know that. So you're telling this is such an incredible story.
Yes.
So you're telling me you just started working for this limo company in January. You meet a dream guy to meet for you because you're such a huge Raiders fan. And because you have a great conversation with Davis and the president of the franchise, you lose your job 5 minutes later. And then the president of the organization that you are a huge fan of. This stuff doesn't happen to people every day, right? I'm a huge Celtics fan, right? If Danny Ainge gave me a call, if I got fired from a radio station, I'd be jumping for joy. Hey, Brian, I got a job for you, at WEEI or something. I mean, that's what this is. So that's incredible. What are you thinking when the president of the organization that you are such a huge fan of offers you a job and they help you? I mean, this has got to make you even a bigger fan, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, stuff couldn't have gone better. And I've so many people have called, and I've got other job offers too, and people like the people that run the Las Vegas Lights. They said, hey, come on down to a game, courtesy of us, sit with the owner's box.
How cool is that?
Yeah, and he said, we'll send a limo for you, and if you want to mess with the limo company that fired you, we'll have them transport you to the game.
You're going to be like a bigwig when the Raiders come to town. You're going to be like their top driver here. I mean, I can totally see that happening.
I hope.
That's so
that'd
cool.
Be awesome.
You are going to run into Davis again. This is going to happen again, and he's going to shake your hand. I bet you he's going to be so nice to you. I would love to know the scumbag who tattletaled on you.
I would too.
I would love to know this. That's like the hall monitor in high school.
Exactly.
It's like, I'll remind you what it's like. It's like you're in a high school class, right?
Yeah.
And your teacher doesn't give you homework, and you got that one idiot nerd in your class that raises his hand and goes, "Teacher, excuse me, you forgot to give us homework, teacher."
Yep.
This is the moron that called your company.
Yep.
And by the way, what is the name of the company that you used to work for?
Well, it's called ALV.
ALV. I would love the opportunity. And if anybody from ALV is listening, I will give them the opportunity to give their side of the story. And come on, I will gladly do that because it sounds to me that you did absolutely, positively nothing wrong.
Well, today, Ron Kontowski for the
Review Journal. Ron's
he did a follow-up story. Yeah, he's a great guy. He did a great story. He put everything into context. But he did a follow-up story today, and I guess the owner had emailed him his position on the firing, and so it's online, and it'll be in the print edition tomorrow.
What was their positioning?
Just that when you run I don't really remember because I've been in so many interviews.
Because I heard they said that you were 20 feet away from the limo or something. They used that excuse. Is that?
Oh no, that was what the person at Presidential he interviewed for the Friday story that says you're supposed to be within 20 feet of your vehicle. So if somebody like a doorman or the starter bring a customer up, it doesn't look unprofessional that the vehicle's unattended. So, but I was only about 100 feet away to where Mr. Davis was.
It is fair to say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, that if you were not a Raiders fan and you weren't a lifelong fan and you didn't take that opportunity, and by the way, I'm so glad you did. That, you're one of your idols, a guy that owns the team that you're such a huge fan of. If you didn't have the guts to do that, you would probably still be working for this service, this limo service, and you wouldn't have the opportunities you have now. You probably just upped your pay eventually, right? You have a better job, a better situation. For Christ's sake, not only the owner of the team, but the president of the Raiders, they know who you are, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
You have a relationship with them now. They helped you out. They helped you get a job. I mean, this is a crazy story. Let me give this out for the listeners, okay? Is there anybody out there listening right now that think Dan did something wrong? I'd love to hear from you. Or maybe vice versa. Maybe someone else has a story like this where maybe once you went up to one of your idols and it turned out to be a fantastic thing and one of your idols maybe helped you get a job or something. I'd love to hear from you because this is a crazy story. This does not happen to people every day.
No.
What happened to you, Dan? Let me give out the number. What do you guys think about this? Do you think Dan did anything inappropriate? I certainly don't. I'll give out the number, 257-5396. Again, that number to call, 702 257-5396. You'd be speaking with Dan Holmgren, who lost his job. And we can laugh about it now, Dan. I wasn't laughing about it earlier, but I can laugh about it now because this is a crazy story, right? I mean, and how long have you been a Raiders fan, by the way? Give us a little bit of history.
Well, I'm a 53-year-old guy now. I've been a Raider fan since the early 70s when my dad first took me to a Raider game when Kenny Stabler was the quarterback and Fred Biletnikoff was a wide receiver with Cliff Branch.
This is Ken Thompson territory. He'll talk to you after the break. This is definitely Ken Thompson territory. By the way, the phones are lighting up. They all want to talk to you. So we're gonna take some calls on this.
Okay.
Like I said, it's not every day that you get to meet somebody famous that you actually look up to, right? I mean, if I saw Britney Spears walking down the street, I wouldn't say a word to her. I'm not a fan, right? I'm a fan of what she looks like.
Yeah.
But if there's someone else walking down the street, maybe somebody that I admire, a coach or an athlete or something like that, then it's somebody I would approach. And it's kind of like one of those things where, you work at a radio station. I've been in radio 20 years. You meet a lot of celebrities, right? You meet a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with starting a conversation with somebody. I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, sometimes these athletes or celebrities or owners, they don't want to sign autographs. They don't want to take pictures. You didn't ask to do that.
No, I didn't want to take it too far. I didn't want to ask for a selfie or autograph. I just wanted to tell the man, hey, I've been a lifelong Raider fan. Thanks for bringing the Raiders to Las Vegas. It's a marriage made in heaven. That's all I wanted to say. Just give him my quick spiel and then move on. And and I've dealt with celebrities too in the limo business where you don't talk to them unless they speak to you. So I wasn't going to overdo it. And if he was in my car, I wouldn't have said something unless he said something to me in the first place.
Right.
But he was just standing there waiting for a car to pull up. So I took the opportunity to say hi, and I'm a Raider fan and a lifelong Raider fan.
Yeah, and thank goodness that you actually did go up to him and you had the guts to do it, because a lot of people, they'll go up to someone that is, they're afraid to go up to someone that maybe they recognize or somebody that's famous. And I think it's a great thing that you were able to do that and not only be able to meet somebody that you look up to, but I think the best part of it is that you were able to get something great out of it. It helped you in your career.
Oh, and the next day after, they didn't call me back, I had all this time on my hands, so I went to get my car serviced over at Friendly Ford. And the guy, I know all the people that run Friendly Ford and the service manager over there, and his name's Jared. And so I was telling him about meeting Mr. Davis. And he says, a couple of my friends work on the stadium. He's there all the time, shaking hands, putting barbecues together. Everybody says he's such a nice guy. And the same thing with me. Oh, thank you. Thanks for being a Raider fan. Yeah. The guy looks you in the eye. He doesn't say, hey, I'm in a hurry. He just listened to me, and what a nice guy.
I think that's awesome. By the way, the number to call, 257-5396. 257-5396 is the number to call. Ken, you just had a conversation with somebody for like 3 or 4 minutes. Did he not want to go on the air with you? Can you please tell us what happened in that conversation? Was it somebody from his limo service?
This time I know that I can't hear you as I'm talking.
Yes.
So it was a driver of cabs. So speaking from a cab's point of view, he said the only thing that he would believe is possibly like abandoning posts type thing. And that was kind of just the point that he brought up.
That makes sense. I wish he would have come on the air with us. But anyway, the number to call if you want to be a part of this discussion, we're speaking with Dan Holmgren, who was fired from his limo driving job because he decided to go up to Mark Davis, which I thought was a ballsy thing to do, a great thing to do, to meet somebody that you look up to. And he lost his job because of that. And now the Raiders organization, the classy Raiders organization, including the president, has not only given him another limo job, but they're also saying he's going to be you're going to be one of their top drivers when they come to Vegas.
Yeah, hopefully. That's what he said. We'll talk to his associate Dave, and Dave said as soon as we get things going, we'll call you and keep you updated.
And by the way, this isn't far from happening, right? We got the Raiders here very, very soon. In fact, once the Raiders season is over next year, and I wish it was over today, by the way.
Yeah,
that's it. They're officially our team, right?
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
And when you look at the stadium that's being built now, it's coming along pretty nicely.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I'm sure you drive around there all the time. How do you think, you're a good person to ask about this, how do you think the traffic is going to be around this stadium? What do you think the parking situation is going to be? You do this for a living. What do you think that's going to be like?
I think the parking is going to be terrible, and you're probably just going to have to walk over from Mandalay Bay over the Hacienda Bridge, or get somebody to drop you off. Because what I heard here is only the club holders and the suite holders are going to have parking on the property itself, and then they're going to have those designated satellite lots where they're shuttle the regular fans in.
Interesting. Well, I know there's a lot of property around that arena.
Yeah.
And I know they're doing a lot of shuttling and all that sort of thing. So, we heard the same thing when T-Mobile was built and the Vegas Golden Knights games. There's, oh my God, the traffic is going to be so bad on the Strip. It's going to be terrible. Look, I mean, there's some moments where it's rough, but people get through it. They still go to games. Those games are sold out pretty much every game. I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. I really don't. I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Because there's so much locations and hotels and parking all around that area that people will walk. And
I would imagine doing this since 2006. You've probably driven some celebrities around at times. Can you give us any of those names of some people that you've driven? Yeah,
I drove Beyonce for like 4 or 5 days when she received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Billboard Music Awards when it was at what's it over there, the
Mandalay
Garden
Bay?
Arena.
Garden Arena.
MGM. MGM Garden Arena before it moved to.
How was she?
She was real nice. And then just like the protocol, like she had security and her manager, and they would tell you what to do. And she'd get in, she'd say good morning, and you left it at that unless she talked some more to you. And she rehearsed and went to different places like a warehouse over by south of the airport with all the dancers and everything. And like I've never seen anybody more professional than her bodyguard. His name was Julius. He was ex-Navy SEAL, and he took care of her like nobody's business.
Was Jay-Z here too, or no?
Well, Jay-Z was driven by a friend of mine. He came into town that Friday, and they met. Remember Boa Steakhouse at Caesar's Palace in the Forum Shops? They went up there for dinner one night. So he was in one vehicle, and I brought Beyonce in the other vehicle to that steakhouse.
Who is the most difficult, or can you give us a story of one of the most difficult customers you've ever had to deal with in the limo business? Like a crazy story where you just wanted the guy, just throw the guy out the door. Is that any
pretty
story?
much when they're in a limo, they pretty much have to afford a high priced vehicle. So I can't remember a bad story, except like maybe on New Year's Eve when people get drunk and then you're hoping that they're not going to Ralph out the limo window. And
right.
Because if something happens in the car, then you got to take the car in for the rest of the night. And that's one of the highest.
You don't make money.
No, you don't.
You're relying heavily on tips with your job,
yes,
right? That is it's just like being a cab driver, right, or anything else, I would imagine.
Yes.
That's a huge part of your job. You just like in the service industry when you're waiting tables or something, right? Is it similar?
Yes. It's more tip-based than anything because you only make a commission off the part of the ride.
So if I wanted to rent you, for example, and be my driver for 24 hours or whatever, 16 hours, because I have no idea what this stuff costs, no clue. What does that run somebody if you wanted to get a limo for like a day?
Well, it depends on the size of the vehicle. If you just want like a sedan or an SUV, then it starts like about $57 an hour. If you want like a 6-pack limo, I think it's towards $72 now an hour, and then an Ultra where you can fit.
So So it could be at least $1,000 or $1,500.
Oh yeah.
I mean that it could run really a lot of money. Well, let me say this, Dan. I am really happy to hear your story because if you told me that you were still jobless, that you couldn't find work, I would be pissed off.
Yeah.
And the fact that you tell me that the president of the Raiders got in touch with you, to me, that is so much class.
Oh.
The Raiders and I am so happy they're coming to Vegas.
Yeah.
When I hear a story like that, it's really easy to root for a team like that. It's easy to root for Davis. It's easy to root for the Raiders. And the fact that you've been a lifelong fan your whole life, like you said, since the 70s, I would say it's fair to say that it has paid off for you now.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And over the years, too, since 2006, I've met a lot of nice people and a lot of friendships I've created over the years by people that have come through my car or an airport pickup or a hotel pickup or something like that.
You meet a lot of prominent people.
Oh, yes. And they're people who I have great friendships and even like a family type friendship with people that over the years they've always called and said, hey, I'm coming to town and I've been to dinners with them and
That's
shows.
cool. Oh, you made a lot of friendships.
Yeah.
Well, before I let you go, Dan, and by the way, I really do appreciate you coming in studio and sharing your story with us. I want to be able to plug your business, so give out that information. How do people hire you personally? Do you want to give out your email? Or,
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, go ahead. Give out any information you want so people can contact you if they want to hire you.
Okay, my email address is, I'll spell it out. It's IGOTBAMD, the number 1 at gmail.com.
IgotBAMD.com. Okay.
Yeah.
So if people want to
Number 1.
Great. So if
Yeah.
people want to contact you and hire you, well, I'm happy to hear your story, Dan. I appreciate you taking the time to come in and share it.
Yes.
It's got a very, very happy ending to it, that's for sure. And I appreciate you taking some time to come in, man. This has been a lot of fun. And go Raiders, right?
Yes, go Raiders. Thank
All
you,
right.
Brian. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thank you.
your time.
I appreciate it. When we come back, we're going to be joined by former UNLV head interim coach and now the coach at Southern Utah, Todd Simon, coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.